including what's being called the ongoing pressure campaign from the president-elect's team and his allies to get controversial cabinet picks confirmed. Meanwhile, Defense Secretary nominee Pete Hegseth appears to have swayed some senators. But Trump's selection to lead America's intelligence agencies seems to be having a more difficult time winning over lawmakers. We'll dig into all of this. Also ahead, we'll go through the diplomatic developments out of the Middle East as U.S. officials are now in direct contact with the Syrian rebel group that ousted Bashar al-Assad. And we'll bring you the latest reporting on these drone sightings that are spreading across several states, as well as the criticism to the federal government's response. What is really going on here?
I mean, come on. Jonathan Lemire, you're going to tell us what's at the bottom of this, because, I mean, I don't know. There seems to be a lot of panic out there. You have elected leaders going, look at all of the drones, and they're like pointing up at Orion.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's interesting.
Former Governor Hogan of Maryland is this weekend identified what he thought were drones, and those who saw his pictures on social media quickly noted now that was just a constellation.
That's Orion, but Elise, there's this crazy back and forth, and I mean it's pretty insane.
Typical government, though, if they could just put out a coherent, honest message about what's going on. But the fact of the matter is they probably don't. They seem like they just don't know, or they know and are completely unwilling to pass that information on to the public and are causing people to just lose their minds over it.
Yeah, we certainly didn't get a very clear answer from the White House podium last week. I will say that one of the lawmakers at the forefront of this, new Senator Andy Kim of New Jersey, who went out with patrols trying to figure it out. He's calling for more clarity from the government, but he says that the more he's looked at it and talked to aviation experts, he thinks most of these are actually just airplanes.
They're planes.
My God.
And not any sort of
they're planes, private drones.
For him, why is he the only elected official who's out there saying, yes, I'm looking into it, I'm actively doing something?
Right. The Wall Street Journal has an editorial on this, talking about how this might be playing into the lack of faith in government institutions. We'll see. We'll cover this and ask all the right questions. With us here to do just that, the President Emeritus of the Council on Foreign Relations,
drones or UFOs? Is this like close encounters to the
those are only two choices?
Look at this team.
Two choices. Well, we got the guy who will know. Former Supreme Allied Commander of NATO, retired 4-star Navy Admiral, and also drone follower and UFO watcher James Stavridis. Admiral, what's going on up there over the skies
What
of
I was
Jersey?
watching was the Army-Navy game, which will now be called forever the Navy-Army game.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Good answer.
Co-founder and CEO of Axios is with us, Jim VandeHei, as well. Great team to start off the week. So let's dive right in as some of President-elect Donald Trump's controversial cabinet picks work to win over members of Congress. Republican Senator Thom Tillis is warning that the pressure campaign to push through nominees could backfire. Speaking on Fox News yesterday, Senator Tillis criticized those who are threatening to fund primary challenges against Republican senators who've been critical of Trump's picks.
What's amazing to me is how we're not even in the new administration. And we haven't even seen the background checks, which I know the administration is sending our way. So there's a lot of information that needs to be gathered. And these folks who are making primary challenges, running ads, they seem more like political opportunists than thoughtful members of the Republican Party. A lot of this are third parties that are making money from the fundraising campaigns to put some ads in there, but double-digit percentages are going into their pockets. Here's what I would tell them. If they really support President Trump's nominees, they should stand down and let the nominees win on their own merits, and I think most of them will. Members are not really swayed by these. If anything, they could create a structural problem for future nominees if they overreach. Kash Patel, who I'm working with because he's on my committee of jurisdiction, is going to enjoy solid Republican support on the Senate floor and coming out of the committee. I think that Pete Hegseth is going to have to go to the committee and answer some questions about organizational experience, some of his past marriages, those sorts of things. All of that's fair game when you're running for a cabinet or sub-cabinet position.
And Senator Susan Collins, who has expressed concern with some of Trump's picks, was asked about the pressure campaign last week.
What would you think of the pressure campaign from the Trump allies to try to get you to toe the line on these nominees? Is it effective?
No. I've taken many, many difficult oaths over the years that I've been privileged to serve in the Senate.
Jim Vandehei, you know, actually, Tom Tillis is so right. So many people, what you see, whether it's here or whether you see it on social media, so many people are just out there. It's the grift. They want to say, hey, we're fighting for your side, contribute here. And it's unfortunately, that's just part of the grift that's out there. But in this case, especially when you're dealing with the Senate, and Donald Trump's not even president yet, and there are all these threats that are flying around there, and we're going to get them, and we're going to shove it down their throat, and we're going to this, and we're going to that. I mean, you're talking about 4 senators, and you've probably lost Lisa Murkowski and Mitch McConnell on most of them, Susan Collins perhaps on some. What do you think about Tom Tillis's remarks that this could backfire?
I think both things are true, right? I think senators are really annoyed by it. There's a ton of pressure. This is unprecedented in a transition to power to have people running ads, to be people already threatening to have a primary challenger, to, putting money into PACs to do just that. So it is annoying to the senators. But at the same time, it's effective. Look what happened with Joni Ernst in Iowa. She was so opposed to the defense secretary nominee. She was telling her colleagues about it. She was making not even very cryptic statements publicly about her opposition, and then she gets pummeled on X, gets pummeled in conservative media. A lot of money is spent back home, and suddenly she has to say, wait a second, maybe this could actually work after all. And so I think that pressure campaign is not going to abate, and I think a lot of senators, especially those who want to stick around for a long time, they are persuadable when that pressure comes. They do fear a well-funded primary challenge. They do want to endear themselves with the president-elect. And so I think that dynamic is going to be only intensified because there's several nominees that you've talked about a ton on the show that are very controversial, that senators, when you talk to them privately, have deep, deep, deep reservations about, yet they might hold those deep reservations, plug their nose and say, whatever, I want to go with the president because I don't want the consequences.
Yeah, I just heard something, though, from Tom Tillis there. Pretty shocking. So most Republicans are going to be okay with Kash Patel.
Yeah.
A guy who has promised to throw journalists in jail. Let's just full stop here again. And there was a New York Times article saying, well, you know, because the Republicans have some problems with the FBI, then yes, Kash Patel is maybe the guy that they'll be supporting. There are 1,000 people you could put in to actually clean up the FBI, to overhaul the parts of the FBI that need to be overhauled, that doesn't have an enemies list, Tom Tillis, that doesn't have an enemies list of like 60, 62 people, and hasn't promised to go after them in power, and hasn't said, yes, we're going to go out and we're going to throw members of the press in jail. And yet Tom Tillis was like, yeah, well, you know, Republican. That is shocking. That again, that, you know, they're still looking at Hegseth, and they should. And I've heard, like you, still some problems for him. Tulsi Gabbard had a terrible week last week. But Kash Patel is like, oh, yeah, you know what? Yeah, the FBI's done some things that are wrong. So you're going to put somebody in, again, has an enemies list of over 60 people that he said he's going after, and said he's going to arrest members of the media that didn't follow along with Donald Trump's 2020 Stop the Steal conspiracy campaign. Are the Republicans really going to allow the next FBI director to be a person who has said that, who has done that?
To this point, Patel has really benefited from the spotlight being elsewhere. Gates, Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, and how that Republicans, even if they haven't had to take a vote yet, but even just signaling their opposition to some, they feel like, well, I can only even do that for so many of these candidates. And Patel has flown under the radar. And that's going to continue likely this week because Robert F. Kennedy Jr. goes to the Hill today, and he's going to, rightly, take a lot of the spotlight there. So Patel has more quietly gone through this process. He's met with a lot of Republicans. But you're so right. There are Republicans, and there are sure Democrats too, who feel like there might be some changes needed at the FBI.
Yeah.
But Kash Patel is not an agent of reform. He's an agent of retribution. He's in that job explicitly because he channels what Donald Trump wants. It's long been said that Patel, no ideology of his own. It's simply whatever Donald Trump wants him to do. And he has an enemies list of his own that's in his book. He wrote it out, as well as someone who is going to take his cues from who Trump has said for months now he wants to have retribution against, whether that's his own members of his first administration, lawmakers, members of the January 6th committee, members of the media. And Patel has shown no hesitation in signaling his support for that. And at least to this moment, Republicans on the Hill seem okay with it.
He's promised to do it.
He's promised to do it.
He's promised. It's not that he's signaled. He's promised to do it. And I can say, Richard, not only what does this say to other countries across the globe, what does this say to the markets about the rule of law? There's a reason why our stock market is the envy of the world. Our economy is the envy of the world. There's a reason why people are leaving the London Stock Exchange and coming to the United States. There's a reason why businesses from all over the world are coming to the United States. It's the rule of law. You don't have to worry about things moving and changing and the rules and the laws changing depending on who's in office. Somebody like Kash Patel, who said, I have an enemies list of 62 people, and I promise you I'm going to arrest journalists and I'm going to get them criminally or civilly, whatever it takes. That's Orban. That's exactly what Orban and Putin has said they're going to do. Let's look at their economies. I wonder how that would work for the United States of America once that happened the first time.
Two thoughts. Rule of law is the proverbial oxygen of a society and an economy. And you don't notice it's missing until it's missing, by which point it's a little bit late. So it is. It's central. It's foundational to all that we are. Second of all, one would have thought if you were the FBI director, you've got enough real challenges on your hand. We still have terrorism to worry about. Indeed, we could have more terrorism to worry about, given what's going on, say, in Syria, potentially. Right. Last I checked, we have serious crime problems in this country. Last I checked, we could go down and down and down. Got corruption issues. So I would think the FBI director has his hands full without going after journalists.
When you want somebody in the FBI that actually knew how to run the FBI and actually had experience on how to do all of these things?
Well, I think that's one of the common threads here with this, with Hegseth and others. Put aside character issues and the rest. It's just a question of whether they have the necessary background. These are enormous management.
And by the way, there's no member of the Senate that thinks Pete Hegseth has what it takes to run the biggest, most powerful, most complicated, most Byzantine bureaucracy on planet Earth. Nobody, no Republican in the Senate believes that. So how does he get 50 votes?
That, to me, is what these hearings need to be more about. Quite honestly, I understand, the personal character issues and the rest. What I actually think these hearings ought to be about is whether this person has the qualifications, the backgrounds, the experience, yes, the judgment, I get it, to do these big, important, powerful jobs.
And so if you're thinking like this incoming president, who is often self-interested, and to him, a strong economy is the definition of strength to him. And I think the point that you've just made is one of the more important ones, is how does this ultimately impact the success of Donald Trump and the strength of Donald Trump? If destabilization of the rule of law, whether it's through the Department of Defense or the FBI, hurts the economy ultimately, that's not good for